Gentlemen, welcome to the Be the Man podcast. I'm your host, Greg Denning, and have a special guest here today, the illustrious, the great, the one, the only Parker T. Denning. Welcome, buddy. So glad to have you with us.
Glad to be here.
He is our oldest son. He's almost 19, and we are up in the Austrian Alps. Just absolutely gorgeous. Those of you who've been over here, you know what I'm talking about. This stunning beauty. And he and I were out on a run yesterday morning, and we're philosophizing while we were running and sucking for air at altitude and cold, but had a really great talk. And man, as we were going, I'm like, we got to share this message with you awesome gentlemen. But we'll give you a little bit of background. So, our traveling is our family dream. And Parker, you've been traveling since you were
3 or 4.
3, yeah. Because Kaya was 4, so you were 3 when we started. We drove the Pan American Highway to Costa Rica.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy. So your whole life, I mean, essentially you've been traveling. And so this is part of our family dream. We just love that. And so whatever your family dream is, gentlemen, we encourage you to just chase that and do whatever you have to do, because it's worth the cost. And we're going to talk about it today. It's worth the cost. So we've been traveling a ton, and we've been traveling the last 8 weeks. We've done 10 countries, I think.
Yeah, 10 or 11.
10 or 11 countries. And in 8 weeks, that's a lot, and it's a lot of history, a lot of museums from help me walk through this, from the Sami
people
tribes
in Norway,
very north of Norway, the Viking culture, obviously the museums there,
a lot of Viking.
Let's just go through the countries. We did Norway, we did
Denmark, Sweden, Åland Islands, Finland, down into Estonia, then Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Czechia, Austria.
You're right, Czechia and Austria. Yeah. And in a couple of days, we're going to dip into Slovenia, down into Bled, Slovenia, which is one of our favorite places in the world. Super awesome. Okay, so all that culture, but we've done World War II stuff. We've been in museums. We went in Vienna, went to the Military History Museum. Mind-blowing awesomeness. And so it's been cool. We went across, Scandinavia and the Baltic states, Eastern Europe. Obviously, we get a lot of history of communism. We get history from World War II, World War I. But then just old history, being in all these towns from Tallinn to Warsaw. I mean, they're hundreds and hundreds of years old. And so you're learning about the buildings and the history and all the wars that have taken place, all this stuff, right? And so it's just this massive explosion of stimulus, right? Stimuli all over the place and all these different places. And Parker's going to chime in here on all this, what it does to our brains. But in addition to that, my daughter the other day, she's 16, just turned 16. And she's like, I finished 12 books in January. And I was like, dang, girl. Yeah. I was so proud of her because she told me she read 24 books in the last 4 or 5 months of last year, which is amazing, right? But to do 12 books in 1 month, I mean, you can't negate the impact of input.
Yeah.
That's the essence, right? You can't negate the impact of input. But it's because we're traveling and having all these new experiences and seeing cities and peoples and cultures and geography. I mean, all of it, and challenging experiences that happen in travel that are unpredictable, and the amazing things that happen in travel that are often sometimes unpredictable. Things happen serendipitously that you don't expect, and you combine that with reading. Then all of a sudden, it's like growth and stimulus on steroids. But then Parker was like, we're like, how many did you finish? And he's finished in January.
Well, now counting today, I've done about 26, 27 books.
Okay, so
So
You're just hitting it hard. Now, for most people, the average American reads one book a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Good readers reading 10, 15, 20. Dude, how do you hit? I've never read that many. How do you hit 26 books in like roughly 5 weeks?
Yeah. Well, last year, 2022, I did a disappointing amount of reading and books. I finished maybe around 15 that year.
Which is still
good.
Way
like,
above
yeah, it's still way
average.
above the average. But like for me, for our family standards, it was just like, and for me personally, it was just not a standard I wanted to have for that few books. And so having a lot of free time while you travel, there's a lot of waiting. There's a lot of train travel, airplane travel, driving. You have a lot of free extra time, and I wanted to spend it more wisely instead of turning to Instagram or movies or something like that to fill up that empty space while we traveled. So I decided to get back into reading in like December of 2022. I downloaded the Kindle app because when you're traveling, it's really hard to carry books, and just started reading every day, and just started small, started simple, maybe 10, 15 minutes a day just to get that habit.
Well, yes, but you didn't start with fluffy books. What did you dig into like right out the gates?
I think I started with Atomic Habits, Meditations, Marcus Aurelius.
Which was challenging.
Yeah, that was the challenging book.
But awesome.
But great.
Yeah.
I learned so much from that, and it really helped develop my mindset how I needed it to be right then, and just helped me get into the discipline of choosing where I spent my time and my actions.
Which, do you think that compounded?
Absolutely.
Like, it starts building on, right? So where you start, you start with Marcus Aurelius saying, hey, you were not born to lie around on your cushions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
and then Atomic, and it starts building and compounding, and so you take that momentum, and the momentum of experiences with the momentum of the books, man, you take off. But keep going. So you dig into some pretty solid books, but you start with just a few. I remember this because you were like, I'm going to commit to like 10 or 15 minutes a day.
Yeah, because sometimes you just have to start small. When you starting from nothing, that was a lot of my big problem. Whenever I started something new, is I tried to do everything at once.
I wonder where you got that philosophy.
Yeah.
It's from your dad saying, baby steps are for babies.
Yeah, and
Let's
so
go.
I just like, it's this constant pressure of like, oh, we can just dive in and do it all at once. But it's like, sometimes it's hard to start from that. So you just started with 10, 15 minutes a day, and then I just realized how much I forgot how much I love to read. And I got back into it, and any spare moment I had, I've really done nothing else besides travel and read for the last like 2 months, which has been great and amazing, and that's why I've read so many books, like 26 books. It's just any spare moment I had, I turned to a book, which has been great. It's really, reading is such a beautiful thing. It really, my family's big on audio books as well, but sometimes I feel like having a constant voice in your head can be chaotic. And so reading, it really helps slow down your brain and really help you focus, which can be great to really just dive into the book and help you understand those principles, which can be amazing.
I think that's such a great point, man. I love the way you articulate that. It's almost like it does slow down time and the racing of the mind. It helps kind of focus things in. Where usually we're listening to audiobooks, which we're both huge fans of listening. But you're always doing something else while you're listening, mm-hmm. which is okay. I mean, you're getting input in. But you're right. When you just have to sit with it and read it, it slows everything down, like brings you into that space. And it's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful relationship with reading.
Yeah.
So, and again, we don't want it to seem like he wasn't engaged with the family either, or we led trips. We led 3 trips during this time as well. He was engaged with the people who came. He's engaged with the family. It's tons of beautiful family time. And one of the biggest drivers for this caliber of an experience with our family is because he's moving out tomorrow. He's going back and pursuing his dreams. And so tomorrow's the big day. And we knew this was coming. So we're like, we've got to go out and create these memories as a family. So we have these shared memories now for the rest of our lives, where we can be like, man, remember that time in Poland? You remember that time in Estonia?
Dog sledding in Norway.
Do you remember dog sledding in Norway, or polar plunging into the sea outside of what was that little teeny village in the middle of
Flum.
nowhere? Flum.
That was incredible.
Yeah. It's just pitch black, snowing like crazy. We're running through the snow barefoot and doing backflips off the top of this sauna into the ocean. Oh my gosh! And that
was amazing.
The pain and the control, where we're just sitting. And Parker did so well. He was just sitting there breathing, controlled his breathing, his heart rate, and was just staying in the water, and just to have that shared experience. And then we went to Auschwitz together and saw the concentration camps. So we have those shared memories and experiences, and our whole philosophy always is to help our children become superb human beings and be as absolutely ready and prepared as possible for launching. So he's launching now as an adult, and we have always, since he was born, we've been talking about helping him. Rachel and I have been talking about helping him and ensuring that he has the mindset and the skill set and the heart set to go into life. But I want you to share, buddy, some thoughts of how this massive amount of book input combined with experiential input, what was happening in, I don't know, it's like in your reality, right? It's going on in your mind, but your whole world is getting transformed. And this is some of the stuff we were talking about when we were running, so that's why I was having him on.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest things I've been taken away from all these experiences and reading is the concept of exposure, and how important that is to be exposed to things, new experiences, new countries, new places, new cultures, and new philosophies and new concepts from reading especially, and how much of an effect that has on your mind. And one of the crazy things I was thinking about is just how simply by being exposed to a new idea from either reading or traveling or meeting new people, your mind literally alters and changes in different ways.
It can't go back.
Yeah.
It's like it pushes out this little bubble and bloop, and you're like, oh, because it expands and it can't go back.
Yeah. I think a beautiful quote I heard, it was like, a mind expanded by a new idea can't go back to its former dimensions. Exactly. Along those lines. But it's just like once your brain gets exposed to a new concept of life, a new experience, you understand more of the life that we live in, which is really important to do because so many of us get caught up in our small worlds, and we like to think we know everything, and we like to think we know everything that's going on around us, but really we are very ignorant of our ignorance. We don't know what we don't know. And so you have to go out and experience new things, and especially uncomfortable things, stressful situations, and then beautiful situations as well. But you have to be exposed to new ideas, new concepts, because it literally changes the way your mind thinks and the way you act, and changes the caliber of your character and the way you interact in the world.
Whoa. In our family, we have this little inside joke and we laugh so hard about it all the time. We were reading world history. This was like a couple years ago, and we came across this dude. It was wasn't it sometime near the Ottoman Empire? So I can't remember time period or even location where it was, but he had this little kingdom.
Yeah.
It was tiny.
Yeah.
It was like a small state. And he declared to everyone, I am the king of the whole world, right? And
he thought he'd conquered the world.
Yeah. it was smaller than one of our small states in the U.S. And we all read that one morning, and we were just busting up like, oh my gosh, this guy has this teeny little kingdom, and he's like, I am the king of the whole world. And it's laughable, but I bring that up because as you're talking about, it's so easy for all of us, and we've seen this we've traveled. How many countries have you been to now?
41,
41.
almost 42.
And, well, right, 41.
When I fly back.
Almost 42.
Yeah.
He has a layover in Turkey tomorrow, so
Yeah.
he's stoked about that. So, but as you travel around the world, you see this everywhere. It's not an isolated experience. It's a pretty universal experience that it's easy to slip into a limited reality, and you become so familiar with it that your mind kind of plays these tricks with you and makes you think like, you got this down. You have life figured out, my friend. You know what this world is all about.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, you just know what your teeny little world is about. And as we get out and get exposed to things, it's forced humility and that exposure you're talking about. And again, you have to be conscious. You have to be deliberate. If you're just clueless and you're just wandering around, like, I mean, you can go out as a tourist and just kind of wander aimlessly. But if you're paying attention, I guess, you know what, you guys, I would say one of the greatest attributes is curiosity. It's beautiful. If you are genuinely curious, you want to talk to the people and taste their food and dig into like, wait, why do you do that? Why do you live that way? What's your history? What's the reasoning? What's your purpose? Like, what's going on here? What does this place and these people have to teach me? Why did they build a city here? You know, and then going, I mean, from all the mountains, like geography and geology and astronomy. I mean, we cover so much on these trips and in your books. So you're exposed to so much. But it's just expanding your mind again and again and again, and makes you realize, man, the more I learn, the more I realize how little I know.
Yeah. But the interesting part is you have to admit that you don't know. Here's a quote from a book that I just recently finished. It says, "The profession of ignorance is crucial to the pursuit of knowledge. Those who pretend to know never will." Which I loved it. It hit me so hard. It was like, you have to confess to yourself deep down that you don't know everything. And there's things that you don't know. If you think you know it all, you'll never learn.
You can't. Wait, read that quote again.
"The profession of ignorance is crucial to the pursuit of knowledge. Those who pretend to know never will."
And the constant flow of new books and the constant exposure to new places, new people, new circumstances, new situations, you can't help but, like, it feels daily when you're like, dang, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I had no idea that happened. And it's like huge historical things, like pivotal things that changed the world, and you're like, I've never even heard of this place.
Yeah.
Oh, and so there's this constant reminder, forced humility.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
It's like you have to be able to take a mindset of humility to be able to look up to a new place, a new idea, a new concept, or a new teacher, a new master if you're pursuing something else. It's like you have to be able to have humility in order to learn a new idea. Because if you come in thinking you're the boss, you're the number one, your mind won't take in new ideas because it's tricking yourself into thinking that you already know.
Oh, I love it. And you get to sit in some of your fears and discomfort and just kind of sit with it. Like we went out to rural Lithuania and nobody spoke English.
Yeah.
and like, you're like, crap, what do we do? And it's so amazing. Like, you figure it out. You use charades. You try to use like Google Translate.
Point and grunt.
Yeah. It's so funny. And it's amazing how much you can communicate without words.
When you need to.
Yeah, when you need to.
When the necessity is great enough, you find a way to make something happen.
Yeah. I love this stuff. Do you have a list? Have you kept a list of the books
have,
you've read? Let's pull up your list here. So the reason I wanted to do this is just to share that concept and that idea. Now, obviously, taking your whole family out and traveling to multiple countries over a short period of time, that takes some planning and strategy, but you can all do it. Like, sometimes we hear things like that and say, I'll never be able to do that. Oh, that can never happen. And just like we're talking about, we start shutting things down before we even ask, how could I pull that off? What would need to be true? What would need to be happen? What would need to be happening or need to happen before we could do that? And if you guys had known me, as a teen or even in my early 20s, I never in my wildest dreams, that's how limiting my thinking was. Never in my wildest dreams could I have even dreamt up this kind of trip that we're actually doing right now with 6 of our 7 children. And sometimes friends. We had a friend travel with us for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? So like we're out here doing these unbelievable things that were so far beyond my dreams and so far outside of my reality back then. And I worked through that. So I want to throw out, like, big dreams are possible for you. And I hope you do include travel in it. There was a time I was like, okay, maybe travel's not for everyone, but I've moved away from that. I'm like, you know what? Travel, some form of travel is for everyone because of what we're talking about. There are certain things you can only be exposed to. There are certain things you can only experience and learn and grow from by being there on the ground, touching, feeling, tasting, smelling, experiencing for yourself. And then we love books and we love great movies and documentaries, and we watch those things, and that's great. But to touch it yourself, and I mean literally put your fingers on these old sacred hallowed places and feel it, that's something else entirely, and it's magical. And so Parker and I are here as an invitation to you to deliberately set up experiences and a list of books. Parker's going to share his list of books. And it's just those 2 things. Have cool experiences. Start right where you are and start experiencing new things. Experience your world in a new way. I promise there's things around you have not yet experienced. And you can go to different churches. You can go to different areas. Do that safely if you go into rough neighborhoods. But different genres, different kinds of concerts or events or whatever. Just start experiencing things differently and combine that with some deliberate reading and studying, and watch how you can have this explosive growth in mind, body, and spirit and reality. So, okay, share your book list with us, brother.
Okay. Atomic Habits, The Way of the Superior Man, Meditations, Marcus Aurelius, The Book of 5 Rings, The Pilgrim's Progress, Gulliver's Travels, The Right Kind of Crazy, 100 Deadly Skills, Fluent Forever, Comstock Load, Discipline is Destiny, Courage is Calling, Sackett's Land, The Life of Christ, Mastery, So Good They Can't Ignore You, Make Your Bed, Max Out Your Life, On the Shortness of Life, The Enchiridion, I think that's how you say it, by Epictetus, The Manual, The Meditations, and The Teacher of Warsaw.
Which was
that book,
phenomenal.
That book was incredible.
Yeah, that is a true story. So it's a historical fiction book about a real man, and he wrote the bulk of the story was from his diaries. That guy, I've got a file, gentlemen, of what I call good and great, because sometimes there's great men that maybe aren't so good, and there's really good men who didn't do anything really great, and so it's rare where you find a good and great, and he made the list, man. That guy, he was something else.
He was incredible.
That's a meaty list, man. There was a few historical fictions in there and a couple fictions, but most of them are just real straightforward personal development.
Yeah. So those are a lot of books I've had on my list, and then I've done a few fantasy books as well, and then I'm currently reading 6 or 7 other books. And I've really been a lot of the books I've been diving into have been in the Stoicism and a lot of the Stoic philosophers, which has been really interesting. But just, again, it's exposing myself to new concepts and ideas that literally alter the way my mind thinks. Like one of the beautiful principles from meditations and Stoic philosophy is one of the things Marcus Aurelius says is he says, when you wake up in the morning and you think about how hard it is to get out of bed, think of the purpose it is to live. Like your purpose is to get out and to live a good life. You weren't meant to sit in your bed and keep yourself warm. And it literally changed the way I think. Now I wake up in the morning and I'm tired and I'm exhausted. And I literally quote that to myself. I said, am I meant to sit in here and to stay warm?
Exactly, you can't.
You just can't. You can't go back to the way you thought before. You think differently. And so I get out of bed, I roll over and I do some push-ups on the floor, I drink some water, and then I get about my day. And I dive right back into more books, into meditation, and just go out and deliberately choose to live more and expose myself to new ideas, because you can't go back once you've exposed yourself to something else, into a new idea, a new concept. Your brain just grows into a bigger field, a bigger area of knowledge, and it can't shrink back. Now you know more, and you've grown and you've experienced more. You're not meant to shrink back to ways you were. You're meant to grow and you're meant to pursue. And so if you're stuck like that, you can't stay stuck and stagnant in your world. You have to grow and you have to experience new things.
And as you get an idea, it literally influences your actions that day. And you and I were talking about this, like you don't remember all the things we've read, right? I mean, we read so many things. You can't remember it all, but the regular flow of good input, it's just like nutrients.
Yeah.
You're just nourishing your mind and soul every day. It's just this regular flow of nutrition, and the idea that hits is relevant for the day and tomorrow, and they start stacking on each other, start building, and sometimes they kind of cross pollinate, so to speak. And so how do you feel like, Parker, this is setting you up for now going into your goals and dreams and projects that you're jumping into?
Well, for me, the important thing is to change what I think about on a daily basis, because in The Strangest Secret, he says we are the sum total of our thoughts. We are what we think about every day. And so while I've been reading, like what you're just saying, it's like it's the constant source of just good material, good books. It's like some of these books I've been reading, I'm like, oh, I'm going pretty fast. I'm not like getting everything. I'm missing some concepts. I'm not remembering everything. But then it just like clicked for me. It's like it's a constant flow and a constant source of good material and good things that are influencing my thinking and my thoughts, which is way better than wasting my time or on Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat or all these other things. Like, especially today in this modern world, there's so much at our fingertips and so many distractions that are taking up our time, but it's all frivolous stuff that doesn't add value to your thoughts and the way you live. So it's like, for me, the important thing with all this reading and what's going to take me and benefit me as I go and pursue the goals I'm going after is it's a deliberate source of good material. So my brain's now constantly thinking about good things, and every day, all the things that I'm thinking about, that's going to determine what I'm going to be and where I'm going to go.
Exactly.
What you think about, you become. And so you always have to be thinking about good things.
I love this idea. And each book brings a feeling with it, and the feeling drives desire and behavior. But as you were just describing that, it was really cool. I just visualized, like, it's just this flow. It's a flow of information. And it could be just trash. It could be just garbage music, garbage movies, just scrolling mindlessly in social. It just, the flow through our minds could be kind of filthy, and the sediment, bits and pieces of it remain. But if you switch that out, and it's a steady flow now of good content, good ideas, philosophies, instruction, inspiration, stories, tons of stories, biographies, autobiographies, histories, whatever, that flow, then there's also sediment from that. And the bits and pieces settle in. And you're right, it kind of changes the flow of thought and the feeling that really sets you up for making better decisions and disciplining yourself, right? And exercising discipline and like, you know what, this is what needs to be done, I'm going to do it. And having, clear thinking from great minds, the greatest minds of all time, just sharing all these ideas where you then have this framework, you have examples right in front of you, so you bump up against a situation, all of us will handle situations better because of exposure to great ideas and great places and great people. It's that combination. So, gentlemen, let's be far, far, far more deliberate and proactive about this. If you don't have my book list already, go get it. It's free. It's got a recommended book list, and I kind of specifically did one I think would help men be men. So go grab that book list. You can grab it off. It's actually inside the Be the Man app. So go download the app. It's in there for free. There's a link to it also in my Instagram at greg.denning. You get it on my website. Just grab that list of books and then start dreaming. Start daydreaming. Allow yourself to dream a little bit of places you've heard about or wanted to go and experience. Or just come join us on a trip. We're leading trips to Jordan and Jerusalem and Scotland and Egypt. We're just doing these epic things. We're out there doing that, or plan your own trip. Whatever you want to do, just go experience things. What do you want you for yourself and your family to experience? What do they need to experience? What do you need to see? What do you need to touch? What do you need to know? And start dreaming, and then start planning, and then get something on the schedule. Make this stuff a priority. Become obsessed with living your dreams and growing like this, because it's priceless, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Experiences, memories, the way you think, the way you cultivate your mind, it's something priceless that you can't get through outside sources, through material things. It's like you have to make your mind an asset first and make yourself an asset, and to make the most of yourself first before you go out and try to find your purpose and your value in all these other things that eventually are all going to get lost in the sands of time. So it's like we have to cultivate ourselves and to really make the most of ourselves, our character, our mind, and what we think about, because that's really all we have control over and what we need.
And those are the things that nobody can ever take from you. Like, those are the things that are yours, and you become the asset. So you're valuable wherever you are and whatever you're facing. And we live in a crazy time in the history of the world, and who knows what's coming. But we want to be prepared for life and have our children, as they become young adults, prepared to launch and prepared to go out in the world and make a difference and have an impact and live deliberately on purpose, doing good things. And this is just a formula to make that happen. So get out, gentlemen, make that happen. Share this. You guys share it with friends, family, colleagues. Share it with whoever you know that needs to hear it. If you like this episode or the others, go ahead and leave a review and dig in. And if you guys have questions, specific questions for me or Parker, shoot me messages, ask questions. We love that. And as always, an open invitation to join us in the Be the Man Masterclass and Tribe, to get in there with this amazing group of men who are striving to be the best dads, the best husbands, the best businessmen, the best leaders, raising great families and living life deliberately, because it's worth every effort. Last night, Rachel and I took Parker on a dinner date And that was our conversation. Like, it's a lot, man. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of effort. Is it worth it?
Absolutely. I think the most important thing is to be constantly pursuing a worthy ideal and something that is worthy and valuable to you. So even though there may be suffering and pain, there is going to be suffering and pain. Let's correct myself. There is. Times are going to suck, and it's going to be painful sometimes. But if you look past that and it's worthy in the end, having suffered through all of that, then it's something worth chasing, and it's something worth pushing through exhaustion, unmotivation, all these painful situations that you're going to go through. You're going to go through all that either way.
Yep.
And if you're going to go through all that, why not have it be worthy in the end?
Exactly.
Instead of looking back and regretting that you didn't do anything about it.
Exactly.
And you just suffered for no reason.
And yes, exactly. And the one is kind of thrust upon you, and you don't gain much or become much by it. Where the other, if you choose to pursue a worthy ideal, to have a noble aim, to chase greatness, yeah, you go through the same. You're going to get the struggle. It's there.
Yeah, either
but
way.
You also get the rewards. And one of the greatest rewards is who you become because of it. So, gentlemen, lean in, be deliberate, buy the books, plan the trips, start making things happen, and you'll begin reaping the rewards of who you become in the journey and the process. Be the man.